day, my students. You are welcome to ENG 322. We have discussed a lot concerning the theoretical aspect of ENG 322, and we discussed a lot concerning the poetry. Remember, we are talking about African poetry. So under African poetry, there is no way we will not talk about theory in totality, the poetry in totality, of course, which we have dealt with in the classroom. The only aspect is that we analyzed one poetry in the classroom, of course, which I also promise you that we're going to analyze another poetry, which I gave you as assignment, and that poetry is called John Donne poetry, which is the Good-Morrow. The John Donne poetry, which is called the Good-Morrow, we have to talk about it today. Who is John Donne? What about Good-Morrow? What's brought about it? But before then, I still need to remind you that when you're analyzing poetry, because there's no way you will not analyze a poem, the first thing that should come to your mind when you're analyzing poetry is to know about the biography of the poet himself or herself. The biography of the poet himself or herself. Having understood the biography of the poet, you should be able to summarize this biography when you're analyzing the poetry, because the poet's biography will influence the poem he or she is writing on. For instance, like John Donne, he came from Catholic background, so to say, and this has really influenced his poetry called Good-Morrow, because he has to make use of some diction and some style that has to do with biblical. So that diction or style has a biblical undertone because of his background. His parents are Catholic, so that has reflected in his lifestyle and in the poetry he has written. So having understood that you need to talk about the biography of the poet, the summary of the biography of the poet, that is number one. You need to talk about the theme of the poem. Of course, you understand that we have two types of themes. We have the major theme and the minor theme. So you need to talk about this. You will recall that when we are talking about the poetry of John Donne, which is Good-Morrow, it has to do with love. Therefore, love should be the major theme, while all the things will come to take place after under the sub-themes. So take that as number two. That is the theme of the poem. The third one is that you need to talk about the diction of the poet itself, the use of language. Then you talk about the style. Every poet has his or her own style. Likewise, the novelist and the dramatist, they have their style of writing. If you look at the write-up of Wole Soyinka, it looks like that of Chinua Achebe and Chimamanda Adichie. They all look alike. The Chimamanda Adichie and Chinua Achebe, they are alike. While that of Olarotimi and Wole Soyinka, they look alike. So that is, you look at the style of writing, and aside that, you look at the reading of the poetry, and you look at the rhyme of the poem, as well as the appeal of that poem is very, very important. Then you look at the figurative expression or literary devices that are used in that poetry. Having done this, you have done justice to analysis of the poem. We talk about the biography of the poet. We talk about the theme, the major and the minor theme. We talk about the appeal the message is sending to the society. You talk about the diction, the use of language. You talk about the mood. You talk about the style. You talk about the rhythm. You talk about the rhyme. All these elements. The stanzas. You know, poems are always divided into stanzas. You talk about the stanzas. All these are very, very important when you are analyzing the poem. So take note of all this. So when we are talking about John Donne poetry, the Good-Morrow, it is divided into stanzas. We have different lines from line 1 to 5, where the persona, the person involved in the poetry, the character in that poetry is called the persona. You know, we have character in a play, we have character in a poetry. The character is called the persona. So the persona in that poetry, the Good-Morrow, is at the bewilderness. He has not come to his sense or realization of the fact that whether he has really enjoyed love before in his lifetime. He's still confused. It's still like he's in the world of dream, or in the dream world, as to whether to realize that whether he has enjoyed love in his lifetime or not. He compared this with the seven sleepers in the Bible or Quran. You know, in Quran they call them Ashabul Kahf. Ashabul Kahf, the people of the cave. That when a particular king was oppressing them in that place, they had to leave the place and seek asylum in a cave, and so on and so forth. I don't want to go deep into Quranic aspect of it. Likewise in the Bible, the seven sleepers, then they enter into a cave, and they were later rescued by their deeds. So he compared himself and his loved one to the seven sleepers that are in the den. They are still sleeping. They have not been waken up from their slumber. That is what line 1 to 5 was talking about in that poetry. Is actually talking about whether they have not been weaned. He compared themselves like a baby that's still sucking blood, that is still sucking breast, that has not been weaned. Do you understand it now? That is about that line 1 to 5. In line 6 to 7, John Donne has started enjoying himself because he has seen pleasure in that love. And if he has not enjoyed anything, he has enjoyed one thing, and that is the beauty of his loved one. So the beauty that is radiant, that has no comparison in this world, is what John Donne mentioned about in line 6 to 7. In line 8 to 11, John Donne has just woken up from his slumber. He has just seen himself as, now he's been enjoying what love means. He's now enjoying that the whole years he spent with his loved one was just a wasteful years. He has spent a wasteful years before. But in this line 8 to 11, he is explaining the fact that he's now enjoying love. He has known what love meant. It's like similitude of we people in this world, that when you met a particular lady, you've been moving together, and at the end of the day, you spend like 2-3 years. But when you now marry yourself, you became couple, and you got married, you are now enjoying. So when you are now enjoying that matrimony, you say, If I had known, I would have married this girl or this lady before now. I never knew marriage is so sweet like this. So John Donne is in the same shoe. It's like he has just waken up from his slumber to say, so love is so sweet like this. So he has come to that realization that, so things is so sweet like this. You understand it now? So that is what that line 8 to 11 is all about. John Donne, line 12 to 14, is talking about metaphysical experiences, especially exploration in different fields like astronomy, like sea, like geography, and some other things. Yes, that is when he's mentioning something like let, the repetition of let. In that line 12 to 14, John Donne is talking about something like metaphysical experiences. So for us, but like line 15 to 18 is talking about the true love, and he has combined that true love with also metaphysical experiences. In line 19, John Donne has made us realize that the love will never die. He believes that the love between him and his loved one can never die. Nothing can kill the love, so to say. So he believes in that. He has that assurance. So that is what line 19 depicts. Yes, when I was discussing about the element that you need to mention when you are analyzing poetry the other time, I've forgotten this to mention setting. Setting is very important. Even in drama, in prose, we talk about setting or location. So when you are explaining or analyzing poetry, you have to talk about the setting. Like that of John Donne, Good-Morrow, the poetry is set during the Elizabethan time. And that informs the reason why some English has to used in the poetry are majorly Old English. So when you have read some of the Shakespearean novel, we discover that most of the novels written by William Shakespeare, they are in Old English. And the reason is that it was Elizabethan time in England. So the setting is in England and the era is Elizabethan time. The Elizabethan time, the art is flourishing or was flourishing then. So art is the major thing, and that is the reason why we have people like Shakespeare, so renowned as at that time and up to today. And you can testify to the fact that we have Shakespearean English. So that is what brought about something like that. So we go on to the next one, which is about the theme. Like I said, the major theme of this poetry is love, while the minor themes has to do with beauty, exploration, astronomy, geography, etc. Those are the minor themes. The poem is septet, is divided into 3 equal stanzas of 7 lines each. It's called septet. If we are to analyze these stanzas, we may not need to analyze them one by one. We can match the 3 together. The first stanzas, which is the persona, is in a dream world, in the bewilderness of life. That is the summary of stanza 1. In stanza 2, we have the awakening spirit, that he has awakened from his slumber, while the third one is assurance of that love, and that is all. Diction or language, the language is very simple and is a combination of Old English and the Standard English, combination of the two. is the two languages are combined together. The Old English and the Standard English are combined together in this poetry, and the use of simple English. The mood is happy mood because the persona is happy. Is happy about the love between him and his loved one. He's very happy. So no doubt about it. So the mood is happy mood. The tone of the poetry is lively. It has confidence. It's not a coerced tone. It is not dull. It is very lively. It's a tone that is giving assurance. It's the tone of the true love. That is the kind of tone we have in that environment. Then the rhyme, they have sameness of sound. The sameness of sound is in that poetry. Then for the rhythm, it is either torrential, prosaic, haunting, strange. But the poetry, those are the type of rhymes that we can have, and the rhythm we can have. It may be torrential rhythm, prosaic, strange. But for this poetry is torrential. One is falling after the other, like a rain falling is a torrential one. We have the use of many figurative expressions, which I may not be able to talk about. I will give my students assignment on this. They should go and do more research. You know, I mentioned the background of John Donne, and I said that reflected in his writing. You know, I talked about biblical, so it means there's biblical allusion in that poetry. There is metaphor, there's personification. We have a lot of figurative expressions and literary devices. Go back to your poetry, go and study that. You can Google search as well. Watch that very well, read it up, and look at the figurative expressions used and the type of figurative expressions used. That's where we're going to draw the curtain as regards this. So lastly, you should study the East African poem, and I'm not going to talk about West African poem. You should study East African poem and the South African poem. I think in the class or even in our lecture material, we have the East African poem and that of the South African poem. Go and study them very well. Those in the material might come out and they might not come out. But whichever come out, with the knowledge I have translated, I have transformed to you now, you can use that of the poetry that has just been analyzed, that of the John Donne, Good-Morrow, to answer any questions that come your way. Thank you and God bless you.